Okay, so you just bought your first motorcycle, you're super excited, now it's time to buy the gear, because we all know that you buy the motorcycle before you buy the gear, all right? But anyway, you go out to the store or you go online and you sit down and you start looking at all these different helmets that you come across, and you find some helmets that are freaking awesome, but they're super expensive. So what do? I mean, what does anybody do? You start looking at cheaper options, because if you just bought a motorcycle, chances are you don't have a lot of extra money. So you start looking at brands like ILM, and you start looking at brands like ZOX, and you start looking at other little brands like that that offer really cool looking helmets for a very cheap price. Big mistake. And I'm gonna tell you why. So this is gonna be a video on what the best and worst helmets that you can buy for 2024 are going to be. Now, first off, if you don't already know, I'll make a video about this later down the road, but heads all have a different shape, and some helmets are going to fit better than other helmets based on the head shape. You have your oval head and you have your circular head and all that sort of stuff. So just because one helmet is super safe and it doesn't fit you properly doesn't mean that you like have a weird shaped head. It just means that that helmet may not fit you properly. Disclaimer, this is all based on the information and research that I have done. Some people will completely disagree with me. That's totally fine. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody is knowledgeable and goes into making their first helmet purchase with as much information as they possibly can have. So first things first, stop buying Ruroc helmets. They are so terrible for you. They don't do any sort of testing on their helmets. They just look super cool. If you want a helmet that has that Ruroc style, you can always look at Simpson, but I'm just getting that out of the way. Please stop buying those Ruroc helmets. They are not as safe as you guys think. Also, ILM is not a good helmet brand. You may see them all over TikTok. Please do not buy ILM helmets. They are cheap, they're inexpensive, they're not safe. I am tired of seeing people wearing these helmets and raving about and saying that they're the greatest thing ever. They are not. When it comes to what's going to be the best helmet that you can buy, I understand that money may come into a lot of factors, but there are plenty of helmet manufacturers that offer great choices. The number one best helmet that I can recommend to anybody that's getting into riding is the AGV K1. Very inexpensive, they're very lightweight, they look really good, they offer different visors, all that sort of stuff. The AGV is a brand that I live by. I currently run an AGV K6S and I love it. It's super lightweight and it's one of the best helmets that I've ever had. AGV can be a little quieter than most brands, but they also are not the quietest. If you're looking for something that's very quiet to where you can hear music with your Cardo or Pack Talk, whatever, you can look at Shoeies. The RPF 14s are great helmets. You can look into those. The RPF 12s even are good helmets, and they offer awesome modular helmets too, if that's something that you are looking for. Another brand that's really good that many people don't know about is Shark. They're a French company, I believe, and they are really good about covering all their bases with safety, and they're very lightweight, and they have that kind of race sporty feel with the fin on the back for those that are looking for that extra aggressive helmet style. Now, I've already kind of listed a couple helmet brands that are not helmets that I would recommend to anybody, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page, those were ILM, Ruroc, ZOX, hell, even LS2, I'm not a big fan of. They produce these helmets as cheap as possible. They put these crazy designs on them so that people will buy them, and they're not up to the standards. And when I say they're not up to the standards, I mean they're just not as safe as other helmets within that price range. Like I said, you can go out and you can get an AGV K1 helmet for right around $170-ish, and that's a really good starter deal for a good helmet. When you look at like things like the Shoei RF 1200, I believe that's about $400. Correct me if I'm wrong. So going from a $200 helmet to a $400 helmet, I know that $200 is a lot of money, but safety is very important. And the brands like ILM and these brands like Ruroc, they just don't do all of the testing. And for those of you that may not know, because you are probably new to motorcycle riding, when I say that they're not up to all the testing, there are multiple different types of testing that all helmet companies are, quote unquote, you can't see right now, I'm doing air quotes, required to do in order to make sure that their helmet is safe. You have things like DOT, you have Snell, you have ECE, and even FIM. When you see a helmet online for sale and you see that it's DOT, that pretty much means nothing. That means that you can throw the helmet and it's not gonna snap in half. I get a ton of people that say, oh, but it's DOT, but it's DOT approved. It literally means nothing. Once you start to get into Snell, Snell is gonna be something that is more high force impacts, high speeds, that sort of stuff. ECE is kind of the same thing, but for the Europeans. In order for a helmet to be sold in Europe, it has to meet ECE standards for things like direct impacts, rotational forces, all that sort of stuff. If you see that helmet is FIM certified, that is like absolutely the best thing that it can have. FIM is going to be the same testing that they give to the pro riders in MotoGP and Moto America and that sort of thing, which means that they are going to be extremely safe. Now, a helmet is not an absolute guarantee to save your life, but you want to have as much possibility of getting up and walking away from a crash as possible, which is why I always, doesn't matter what motorcycle you ride, I would always recommend a full-faced. Okay, with all of that explanation and with all of those brands kind of talked about a little bit and all the different safety ratings, let's actually talk about some of the best helmets that you can buy. So first off, like I had stated before, the AGV K1S is going to be one of my absolute favorite helmets and one of the helmets that I recommend to most people that are starting their motorcycle journey. Another helmet that's really good that people tend to kind of overlook is the Sedici Strada 2. Now, if you don't know, Sedici is actually a company that is created by the company Cycle Gear, so they tend to be on the cheaper side, but that's just because they're selling their own product. They don't have any in-betweens. But the Sedici is a little bit heavier than the AGV K1, if I'm not mistaken, and if you go to the Cycle Gear, you can tend to find some good deals for their Sedici because they are an in-house brand. Another good helmet to look into is going to be HJC. They're a fantastic company. You can look into the HJC 70, which runs you about $180. They obviously have really good helmets that are like super expensive, like the HJC RPH-A 1N, which is going to be like their like super awesome helmet. It's super expensive. I think they run you about $550. And HJC, the HJC C70 is going to be a modular helmet if that's something that you are looking for. And the last thing that I'm going to recommend to you guys is going to be the Shark Spartan GT. This is going to be something that's a little more on the expensive side. It runs you about $350 to $400. Shark, again, is an up-and-coming brand, but I personally really love their helmets. I think that they're fantastic and they offer a lot of protection for their price point. Now, if you're looking for something that's extremely expensive, like I was saying before, you can go with the Shoei RF 1400. That helmet is going to be one of the all-time best helmets that I can think of in terms of quiet and safety when you're on the road. You can also look into the AGV K6, like I had said. Again, that's the helmet that I prefer to use, and it's one of my favorites, and many others. So the one thing that I would recommend is going into a Cycle Gear and trying on a bunch of different helmets to find out your head shape and see which helmets are going to fit you the best. I believe that Cycle Gear carries Shoei, they carry Bell, they carry Simpson, they carry AGV, all of these different helmet types, and you can go in, you can try them on, see which ones are going to fit. I used to use an Icon Airflight when I first started, and it was the worst helmet that I've ever had. It was a large, it was uncomfortable, and I went in and I actually tried on the AGV Pista and found out that I was a medium and decided that I didn't want to spend $1,400 for a helmet, so I went down and brought the AGV K6S. But it has fit me better, it's comfortable. You see a lot of people that have the... One thing that you're going to want to look for is the chipmunk cheeks. If you have the chipmunk cheeks, then you know that the helmet is fitting you properly. You don't want to be able to wiggle your head and have the helmet move at all. So I will leave you with this. Stop buying ILM helmets. Stop buying Ruroc helmets. I know that they look really cool, but your safety is much more important than looking cool while riding your motorcycle around. So I hope this video helped you guys out and gave you kind of an idea of all of the different helmets out there for their price point, what the best helmets that you can look for are going to be, and what the worst ones that you need to avoid are. If you do have any questions or anything regarding this, go ahead and leave a comment and I will get to them as soon as I can. So if you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. We're trying to get this channel to grow. And remember, life is bliss.